USC, just stop taking verbal commitments.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're downloading your podcast. This show is free, and the show always appreciates your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms will apply. Look, you stop giving out verbal commitments, you won't get any decommits. Nobody's decommitted in the last, since Justice Terry, so in the last 48 hours. But again, that's one way to stop a recruit from decommitting after they've made a verbal contract. Yeah, that's a commitment is a contract. Verbal, written, doesn't matter. It's binding in a court of law. But could you actually imagine USC, or any college for that matter, suing a 16 or 17-year-old because the young man changed his mind? Look, I doubt that Kyle Ford, my bad, I was tripping defense, would work in court. However, again, oral contracts are legally binding. The problem is, though, they're really difficult, really hard to prove in a court of law. I guess it kind of really depends on the jurisdiction and the type of deal, and was there a third party there to witness it? But make no mistake, word is bond. Verbal contract, handshake, good enough. You could write it out on a napkin in a bar. That's a contract. Look, let's just change the game. It's time to stop taking verbal commitments, period. Even before NIL, name, image, and likeness, and before the transfer portal was born, a high school recruit's verbal commitment, their pledge, it really, honestly, it carried about as much weight as the paper it was written on, which is not written on. Again, just verbal. And they're even worth less now during this new whole era of college football with NIL, free agency, whatever you want to call the transfer portal. The players, the tail is wagging the dog right now. I swear, if Albert Einstein was still coaching, in fact, if Albert Einstein was a football coach, I don't think he coached football, I think he would ask everyone that continues to do the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. He'd ask, why are you doing that? Because it's insane. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over and anticipating a different result. That's not how it works. But that is how college football works. And then beginning next year in 2025, oh yeah, the universities are going to be able to pay student athletes directly. Look, I don't know what the rules and what the red tape are going to be. It's still being figured out, but we know how the NCAA works. Just expect more uncertainty, more chaos. But here's what we'll be able to do. Once the universities start paying these recruits directly, we can now call these student athletes employees. Or let's call them independent contractors. Or we can call them overpaid teenagers. All three descriptions are undeniable. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know yet, not sure how it's going to work out, that's what's going to bind a recruit to the school they choose to get paid by. That contract that they sign. Because if that's how recruiting is going to move forward, I say let's try something different. And let's hope we get a better result. Because right now, a young man's words, hey, Coach Lincoln Riley, hey, Coach Hanney, I want you to coach me. I'm coming to your school. Those words, that handshake they might have given you before they left from their visit, those words, those handshakes, they just continue to feel less genuine day after day, year after year. Call me cynical. So you know what? Instead of taking a verbal pledge, and then waiting until December or February, whenever the young man decides to sign his letter of intent. When a recruit says, hey, you know what? I want to come work for you, Lincoln Riley. I want to come work for you at the place that you work at USC. Great. I think that's fantastic. Let's sign this contract right here, right now, on the spot. Got it down. If you want, look, USC they can hand the new contractor, whatever we want to call him, employee, whatever. Give them their stipend check for their housing right there on the spot. That's their scholarship. And then every 2 weeks, tell them, hey, sign now. In 2 weeks, you'll get your first paycheck. Now, okay, we know recruits, young people, old people, everybody changes their mind. You have a change of heart. That's fine. Stuff happens. You can still use the transfer portal. But remember, you signed a contract. I hope you read the fine print, because this contract says you're more than welcome to leave this company. But we're going to have a non-competitive disclosure. And guess what? You got to sit out for a year. You don't just get to go and suit up next door because they're offering you more money all of a sudden. It's not how it works. Welcome to the real world. That's how contracts work in the real world. So let's get rid of the letter of intent. So let's just sign free agent high schoolers, put them on a contract, not just a financial aid package. And say, hey, sorry, you can't decommit, young man. You signed a contract. And, oh, by the way, it's also for 3 years minimum. I don't know. Do you think these young men would accept that? Put the pen in their hand, say, all right, let's see how serious you are. Probably not. With all that said, with me making the case for, you know what, just forget taking commitments. Guess who set out the Trojan bat signal on Thursday? Yep. USC, Lincoln Riley, Annie Hansen. The question now is it for a walk-on? Because you did see someone, his name is Brady Jung. He's class of 2024. I think he's going to be a preferred walk-on. Plays the wide receiver nickel position. Menlo High School. Smart young man. Scored a 35 on his ACT. 3.99 GPA. If it's not him, the other smart guess, many think it could be for the offensive tackle from Rancho Santa Margarita Catholic High School, Elijah Vacona. Could be him. I've got a little bit of an edge to me today. It's not just what I'm talking about. But yeah, got a little bit of angst. So if you hear it in my voice, roll with it. So yeah, it could be Brady Jung, wide receiver, nickelback, Northern California. Looks like he's a preferred walk-on. Could be the offensive tackle, Elijah Vacona. Look, we're still waiting for those 2 bat signal fly-down flashes that we got 2 weeks ago after the official visit weekend. Before I finish this segment, just to kind of close it out on, where I'm at with the verbal commitments. Don't think for a second that members of USC's coaching staff aren't getting a little irritated too. Coach Sean Nua put this message out on X. We will always respect the decisions each young men and their families make, and we wish them well. We also have faith in those in the foxhole with us, especially the warriors whom we are about to go to war with. The quest for finding the best Trojans will always be the mission. Just don't get it twisted. This is still USC. FTFO. you could figure out what FTFO means. So, sounds like the coaching staff's getting a little irritated with these verbal commitments and then backing off those pledges. Just my assumption. But, I tend to hear things, I tend to see things, and I start to connect the dots. Coach knew his words fit the timeline. Right after Isaiah Gibson, decommit. Right after Justice Terry, decommit. Just saying. I'm sure a lot of you, like me, grew up spending some time at your favorite Major League Baseball ballpark. Well, me, I was hanging out at Dodger Stadium. Yeah. And it was, when I grew up, there was none of that corporate advertising that they have going on the walls out there. Yeah. That's what's made the game more expensive. However, with killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Game Time has all-in prices that shows you your total up front, and that way you know you're getting a great deal before you check out, and you can buy your tickets in seconds. 2 taps, you are done. Trojan fans, it's getting closer. 72 more days. USC kicks off in Las Vegas. Have you got your tickets yet? Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, like Nancy, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I know we're all doing it. We're all watching Fox Sports. We're all watching ESPN on our TV all day, and we're all turning down the volume because everyone's screaming and shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel, and it's programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, and it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So I was talking with someone the other day at the Elite 11 finals who offered an opinion on Julian Lewis, USC's committed quarterback to the class of 2025. This particular coach said, you know what? Juju has the it factor. The same type of characteristics that Caleb Williams plays with. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I wanted to get a comparison. I said, do me a favor, compare Juju to one of the local quarterback prospects that USC didn't offer or made a soft offer, I guess. Maybe it's another way of putting it. And I'm referring to Houston Longstreet, the quarterback from Centennial. After the first day of the Elite 11, Juju was standing at number 10 in the list. This is the way Elite 11 described it. Julian Lewis was consistent with his mechanics over the course of the workout. The 6', 186-pounder was at his best in working to the short and intermediate areas of the field. Lewis showed more urgency in his footwork than in the regional. The Peach State passer is more of a cerebral distributor at the position rather than a toolsy top physical talent. Wednesday's pro day and the 7-on-7 session on Thursday should cater to his strengths. Okay. Well, guess who was the day one MVP? If you're an everyday listener, watcher, viewer of Locked On USC, I told you it was Houston Longstreet. Well, this coach that I was talking with for a little bit, he said he was really impressed with Houston. He said he's really athletic. In fact, more athletic than Juju. But he said Juju is the better quarterback, at least right now at this stage of their careers. He says Juju just has, and I'm finger quoting it, very Cable Williams-esque, very unique. It's the things you really can't teach. It's an intangible. It's a feel. Well, they both just finished up their Elite 11 finals. The overall MVP for the week was Keelan Russell. Is it Keelan Russell? He's the quarterback commit for Alabama. Now, Juju had like I said, he had a really good few days at Elite 11. He was the 2024 Pro Day champion, so that was on day 2. He finished his Pro Day workout with a score of 50, which allegedly, according to someone, was better than 3 of the college quarterback counselors that were out there, including Miller Moss. There was only 3. Miller was one of them. I can't remember the other 2 off the top of my head. And what was really cool about Juju having a good second day, the Pro Day, he did that on the same day that Miller Moss and Deuce Robinson were hanging out. They were kind of showing off their skills, doing it in front of everyone. If you haven't been on social media, you haven't seen any of the highlights, Miller is throwing laser beams, and Deuce is just picking them off at the back of the end zone. Deuce is a freaky athlete. Again, 6'6", runs like a deer, big. Remember, he was a tight end, allegedly, coming out of high school. USC said, nope, big wide receiver. Now, this same coach that I was talking with said, he said, look, Miller looks great. And he said he loves what he sees when he throws. He loves the way he plays the position. Miller's going to be just fine in Lincoln Riley's offense. Now, I want to ask this question. Little segue, take it down a different path here. Is there too much hype for Juju Lewis? Is he going to be given the starting job when he comes to USC? Probably not. I mean, I think he probably has a better chance starting right away at Auburn. I've mentioned this name before. And he definitely has a better chance of starting at Auburn, especially if Miller decides he wants to return for another year. And don't forget, you've got Jaden Mayava already in tow. He's competing against Miller this year. I'm not trying to create any drama. But just a reminder, Elite 11 is over. Juju is now on his way to Boulder, Colorado. Depending on what time it is, he's probably already gotten there. He's heading over there for a couple of days for his official visit. And from there, he's headed home, back to Carrollton, Georgia. So after his official visit to Boulder, Colorado, everyone just waits for Juju to shut it all down and say, yeah, I'm still a Trojan. He's still committed right now today. But what if Juju bolts after considering all of his options? Listen carefully again. Auburn is throwing Fort Knox at him. It's not that USC can't or won't match it. That's not the issue. But when you start stacking payday, early playing opportunity, proximity to home, again, I'm not trying to create drama. I'm just trying to keep things into perspective because we just had a couple of 5-star decommits. And I get it. Those were probably anticipated or should have been. Starting to get a little, the little short curlies on the back of my neck, starting to get a little weird. So, look, in the uneventful event that Juju decides, you know what, USC's not the place for me. I know who I'm calling 30 seconds later. I know who Lincoln Riley will be calling. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But since I'm talking about, verbal commitments and how worthless they are and kind of what's been going on lately, We should throw it out there for discussion. Give me your thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, you know where to hit me up. It's Friday. You know what that means. You know what time it is. Time for me to rant. Look, I talked about it earlier in the week. Something has changed with USC's football program. Some of the changes have been good, like hiring a new defensive coordinator, getting ready for your first season in the big conference, the Big 18, whatever it is. However, some of the changes within the program, not as good. Like canceling the out-of-conference games with Ole Miss. Yeah. I don't know. Has the program changed for the better? I'm not questioning USC's seriousness about playing football at the highest level. You can't, really. I mean, they're financially invested to the gills. You got that new football-only facility that's being built. You've invested, I don't know how much money into your coaching staff. They spared no expense. I think everybody can agree with that. But here's where I question the changes. Because I kind of feel like USC is going through an identity. They're losing their identity. USC playing the best programs, no questions asked, is what helps bring the best players from all over the country to play for USC. Didn't matter who USC was playing. Nobody cared. Anyone, any place, anytime. That was always USC's mantra when it came to scheduling football games. Look, I'm old enough to remember, Trojan teams traveling to Alabama, winning. Arkansas, winning. Even going to Death Valley, where LSU plays, winning. And I bring that up again because USC and LSU kick off their season this year in Las Vegas, 2024. But you know who else USC played in each one of those seasons that they took on the SEC or Ohio State in the big conference or Nebraska? The list is forever. They played Notre Dame every single season. USC always had a tough out-of-conference schedule. Every single year, through every single era, USC never shied away from playing the best competition. Not because the Trojans had to play a tougher schedule, but more so because they wanted to take on the challenge. Didn't matter if USC was in the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12. The Trojans have always played a full slate of conference games, plus an out-of-conference schedule that set their program apart from the rest. We all stand around and make fun of the SEC for their out-of-conference scheduling. USC's strategy, it's worked. It's got proven results, like 11 national championships, 25 Rose Bowl wins, 34 appearances, 8 Heisman Awards. Now, yeah, USC probably could have a couple more national championships had they taken that path of least resistance. But more importantly, the way USC did it, it gave Trojan fans, it gave USC the right to stand at the bully pulpit and say, you know what? We did it our way. And we did it better than you, and we did it better than anybody else. Because we weren't afraid to play anybody, any place, anytime, anywhere. I know I'm repeating myself. Whatever. I'm on a roll. But Trojan football did it better than anyone during any time, any era. And you know what? They didn't use or need the excuse. The schedule was too hard. Nobody else is doing it. Didn't matter that no one else was doing it. I was reared on anyone, any place, any time. And I get it. The game has been changing. A lot of money involved. The goal is to win a championship, make the playoffs. But, you also want to put butts in the seats. And I just don't think scheduling 3 Utah states or 2 Utah States and Notre Dame, I don't know. It doesn't pique my interest. I heard Lincoln Riley on the local radio earlier this week recently say that USC's games against LSU and Ole Miss were made at a time when maybe those types of matchups were necessary because the Trojans played in the Pac-12. I'm paraphrasing, but that was the implication, that USC's perceived conference strength kind of forced them into playing a tougher out-of-conference schedule. Well, Coach Riley knew the job was dangerous when he took it. Those games were on the docket when he took over. I don't know. The thought, again, for me, the thought that USC football prefers a path of least resistance, that's just a change for me that's just really hard to accept. Can't do it. It's not part of my DNA. I'm willing to plant my flag on this hill. I will die on this hill. USC should not schedule down. They should maintain and continue to do it the way they've been doing and force everybody else to play 9 conference games and a strong out-of-conference schedule. But that's just me. All right, that's it. I'm done ranting. I think I've got it out of my system. We've had a really good week here at Locked On USC. Getting a lot of positive feedback on the Willie Washer interview. That was a great young man, by the way. Cannot wait to see him in Cardinal and Gold. And even though this week is over, I do have a special episode coming up. I told you I was going to be doing a show with JD Piquel from On3. I'm going to be recording that Friday, so stay tuned. Make sure you're hitting that bell notification button so you don't miss an episode. Smash that thumbs up and become a subscriber on YouTube. All of this helps the show grow. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.